Доброго дня.
Доброго дня.
Доброго дня.
Доброго.
Доброго дня.
We are waiting for join us, all of participants.
Good afternoon.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
As I see, we can start. So I should remind you about our time limitation. So we kindly ask you to give short presentation of your results, up to 5 minutes, in order to have time for small discourse. And please mute your microphone. And unfortunately, we don't have time to present the presentation paper, multi-agent clinical decision support system using case-based reasoning. I can't see, do we have these authors? Tell me, please. Do we have somebody who can present the paper multi-agent clinical decision support system using case-based reasoning? No one. Okay. So go to our schedule, and I invite to present the paper Strategy and Tactics of International Digitalization and Intellectualization of Economic Relations.
Hello, so let me represent results of our research about strategic and tactics of international digitalization and intellectualization of economic relations. Everybody can hear me and see me? Okay?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so should I translate my presentation as well? Because maybe you can help me, because I use the mobile phone for. Dear moderator, should I translate my presentation?
One moment, please. Karina, could you help us with presentation?
Maybe, I don't know.
Please share your screen and share the presentation. It's number 7.
Oh, it's number 7. Yeah, okay. Just a second. Do you see the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
yeah, thank you for your help. In the article, we studied the strategy and tactics and examined the relationship between the two concepts based on such properties as priority, time period of action, essential affiliation, and other. Given the nature of established relationship, a number of tactical approaches can be forwarded and implemented within the chosen strategy. In order to select them, the elements of the suffix tree method are used in the following order. So first we give the definition of features of the selected strategy and formation of their basis of the RET. Then we need to detect the suffixes on the array and data of length of this array, and then the essence of which determines the strategy, namely of RET. Then we need to construct of the suffix tree and the selection of tactical approaches, moving from the root of the suffix tree to any of its letters ending with a special sign. And also we did the practical implementation of the format method made it possible to identify tactical approaches to digitalization of the economy. And also you can see our abstract and the keywords of our articles. So we set the following goals of our study. So first we need to explore the concept of strategy and tactics. And then we needed to study the process of forming of tactical approaches. Also, we analyzed Ukraine's digital strategy or strategy of digitalization, national economy, and then we recommended tools for determination of tactical approaches to strategy implementation using the elements of the suffix tree method. And finally, we test recommended approach using online modulation, tactical approaches to implement the strategy of digitalization. So let's move to the goal number 1. So we explored the concept of strategy and tactics. We studied the essence of the notion of strategy and tactics, and correlation between two of the concepts we set by following properties as priority, time period of action, and complexity, we mean the essential affiliation. And we needed this correlation between two concepts to find the method of to study the process of forming of tactical approaches. And we recommend to use the suffix tree, and as you can see it on the figure 1. As the suffix tree we use to select the tactical approaches. For this reason, we set the strategy as an array. For example, T means enterprise strategy, and using the suffix tree, we set the enterprise strategy as a tree. So this suffix tree have different leaves, and moving from the roots of this tree to each of these leaves, we can see the attributes of the strategy, and we can see different tactical approaches. So we consider them as suffixes. Yeah, so maybe I will move to another goal. So I already showed this our suffix tree, which contains the tactical approaches. So the goal number 3 was analyzing of Ukrainian digital strategy. We needed to find the attributes of the strategy. That's why we studied the digital agenda of Ukraine. And to build the suffix tree, we need to find out the attributes of the digital strategy of Ukraine. So we set as stimulating of the economy, attracting of investment, overcoming digital inequality, deepening of cooperation with the European Union in the digital sphere, and the building country's innovation infrastructure and digital transformation. So it means that T equal digital strategy, and digital strategy contains following attributes. Each of them can be the tactical approach to use the strategy, to do some action, And the goal number 4, so we recommend for determination of the tactical approaches, the strategy implementation. So in order to construct this, use some online algorithm. Not the only one, there's a few different algorithms, which was formed on the basis of this first proposed algorithm of the suffix tree developer Peter Weiner, and the left-right algorithm, and we applying this algorithm. The
1 minute left.
Sorry?
1 minute left.
All right. The suffix tree array receives the appropriate order, which we'll consider on the example of the digital strategy. And on the last sheet, you can see the testing of recommended approaches using the online modulation. So we use these suffixes to digital strategy to build the tactical approaches of digitalization in the economy using the online modulator. As conclusion, we would like to recommend to identify tactical approaches of the strategy by using this online modulator and by using this method of the suffix tree as one of the possible methods. Because as I know, the tactical approach is not much studied in the literature and also not much used in the practical activity on enterprises.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Can I ask you, what do you think about Lidiia application?
The application?
Yeah.
I don't use it, but I think in future it will be necessary to use it because it's much more comfortable, like to have everything online in your device and not to pick up all your documents. I mean, like to download all documents that you need to download it and to have it with you. But I think important question is the security of data.
Yeah, I agree. Anybody have some questions?
Of course I have.
Please.
Why did you use suffix tree for your research? Because we know that algorithms are really complex for understanding and for implementation.
When first time I saw the suffix tree method in the literature, yes, so it was not related with economics. And when I saw the figure with the suffix tree, I don't know, it just come into my mind that it also can be used in the economics. And I was looking for some tools to make it easier to find out the tactical approaches of the strategy, because this topic, that's my topic of my doctoral dissertation, yes, so I don't know how to translate it. So my or postdoctoral work, I don't know. And I was looking for some tools to help me and help management on enterprise, yeah, to make it possible to realize the strategy of enterprise.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. It was interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No questions. Thank you very much. And we go to the presentation, Big Data Analysis for Structuring FX Market Volatility due to Financial Crisis and Exchange Rate Overshooting. Welcome, up to 5 minutes, please.
Okay, thanks. Hello, my name is Olha Kots, and I will present you the results of our research. I hope you hear me good. So on the first slide, you see again topic and our authors, Oleh, Pavlo, Ilchuk, Olha Kots, and Lidiia Bondarenko. All we are from Lviv Polytechnic National University. So we wanted to find the reasons why the foreign exchange market is changing during financial crisis, and we were looking for the new technology, how to analyze it. So historically, there has been clear evidence of exchange rate overshooting during episodes of macroeconomic turbulence or crisis. And big data information technology makes it possible to understand the links between the phenomena caused by different factors occurring in different countries and at a different time intervals. So big data analysis is used in various spheres, and we decided that we can use it also in economics. And summing up the analysis of scientific publications on big data analysis, we can say about the high attention to this information technology, its thorough detailing, and the possibility of its practical application for data analysis during financial crisis. The literature review has showed that the chosen topic of our research is relevant today, and if you need more information about our literature review, you can find in our full article. Making our research, we have formed the hypothesis of our research that the financial crisis and shocks in FX market, which manifest themselves due to significant exchange rate fluctuation, accompany all economic crises, regardless of the primary factors that cause them. To prove this hypothesis, we have formed a few time series. First group of them is connected to the financial crisis in Ukraine in 2008, 2015, and 2020, as you see on the slide. And also we used data to compare the crisis provoked by the COVID-19 pandemic crisis in different countries. We used data of Poland, Georgia, Russia, Belarus, and also Ukraine, and comparing this crisis for different countries. So next slide shows you data visualization. So we tried to find how quickly exchange rate fluctuation were stabilized in different countries. So the least time was spent on stabilizing the FX market in Poland, only 11 days during COVID crisis. At the same time, Ukraine spent 31 days for stabilizing the foreign exchange market. So it means that central bank measures are not so effective and are not so useful as in another countries. Next slide shows us comparison of the exchange rate extreme achievement velocity calculated as a growth rate between the minimum and maximum exchange rate values during COVID-19 pandemic crisis, demonstrated on the figure which you can see. Have to say the differences in the exchange rate dynamics during COVID-19 pandemic crisis are in level of FX market development, level of confidence in the central bank's measures aimed at the stabilizing FX market, and also in the level of effectiveness of the central bank's measures aimed at the stabilizing FX market. Big data analysis made it make it possible to analyze such data. So it is visible to use statistical methods of data mining as part of big data analysis for further study of the patterns of FX market volatility during financial crisis. These methods include preliminary analysis of statistical nature, identification of links and patterns, multi-dimensional statistical analysis, dynamic models, and forecast based on time series. Then we decided to compare these two groups of initial data, and first of them is about COVID-19 pandemic crisis. As you can see in table 1, the longer is the panic in FX market, the slower is the exchange rate velocity of reaching the extreme. From the economic viewpoint, the longer it lasts, the worse is consequence for the country's economy as well. In table 2, there are highlighted those combinations for which the presence of identical trends in time series was detected. Have to note that Ukrainian FX market volatility does not have similar trends with FX market of Belarus, Georgia, and Russia. There is only a similarity in trend of growth index and growth rate with the Polish foreign exchange market. Next step, we decided to compare 3 financial crises in Ukraine. So this slide shows you dynamics of exchange rate in Ukraine, and have to notice that in different time periods we had the different approach to set and to calculate exchange rates in Ukraine. And now we have floating exchange rate. Before, in previous crisis, we had fixed exchange rate, so the results will be a little bit different, but also interesting to compare. Next slide show us the dynamics analysis results during the financial crisis in 2008, 2015, and 2020 in Ukraine. So comparing the values of average growth rates in different crisis periods, we see that the most rapidly changing, the average growth rate was 3.08% per day. It's really high because the basic comparing how we see do we have overshooting or no, we compare the day growth rate, and if it is more than 2% per day, we have the panic on FX market, and we have overshootings, we have crisis on FX market. On the next slide, you can see the
1 minute left.
Okay, thanks. Time series comparing results during the financial crisis at the same period based on F statistics. So the Fisher's F test value showed that there are no similarities between these series. Also, the results of students test also allows us to confirm that there is a clear trend in tendency to increase in the exchange rate time series. And let's go to the conclusions. If to summarize, can say that big data analysis allows to identify trends in unstructured and poorly structured data. All study at FX markets respond to financial crisis with high exchange rate volatility. Also, in all analyzed countries, COVID-19 caused panic in FX market. The dynamics of different FX markets during panic shocks is similar to each other, unlike the Ukraine dynamics. So we need to find other approaches and other measures how to regulate and stabilize our Ukrainian foreign exchange market. Our hypothesis was proved, and possibilities of using big data analysis during financial crisis were tested on the basis of real data on exchange rate fluctuations. So we can say that we can use them, we can structure such type of data, and big data analysis helps us also work with economic fields. Okay, next slide is about our references. Maybe it will be interesting for somebody, and in the presentation you can find it. And thank you. That's all.
Thank you very much. Everybody can unmute your presentation at the conference website. So any question?
Let me ask, please.
Yes.
So thank you for your report. It is very interesting. And I want to ask you about intersection of big data analysis and blockchain technology and quantum computers in business.
Mm-hmm. In financial sphere, we mostly often use blockchain technologies, especially emitting money, especially forming databases of financial sector. But in this research, we weren't analyzing such information. So sorry, no more details.
Thank you. Thank you. It's very interesting.
Thank you. Any questions?
Oh, I have a question.
Please.
Could you please tell whether you compare the exchange rate on only on crisis in different countries, or you try to track the changes of exchange rate during the non-crisis period in Ukraine? Why do we have some fluctuations of exchange rate when we have no any crisis? General, I mean,
nowadays, when in Ukraine the exchange rate is set on a floating base, we have fluctuations every day. It's normal because money demand and money supply for foreign currency is changing, and the foreign exchange market have to balance on some point. So it's normal to have changes in exchange rates. We tried to structure data during crisis because it's such periods when we have to stabilize market very fast. If we want to stabilize it, we will have big problems. We will need to restructure our monetary system to make monetary reforms, and we will have we will need too much money to restructure our monetary system. So nowadays, floating exchange rate, it's normal that we have changes every day because money demand and supply must to balance on FX market.
And what if the fluctuation will be too deep? And how do you think should government somehow to influence it, except adding some
No,
money?
no. The main answer on this question: government don't have to influence. Government can't influence because all decisions on foreign exchange market is taken by the central bank. Central bank, it's not government. Central bank influence on FX market only through currency interventions for making the volatility lower, and not to change trends in exchange rate dynamics, not to make some currency rate, but to make a lower volatility, because in different time periods we have different operations in the main, or some export contracts are realized, or we have to make some payments for import contracts. So it's to make volatility lower, central bank take part in foreign exchange market, but no government, no measures to influence from the government. Only one way. Please.
Thank you very much. Thank you for presentation and discussion, but we need to go to our schedule. And welcome to the next paper. It's a simulation, the attractiveness of transport services as a tool for assessing consumer loyalty in the digital epoch. Welcome.
Yes.
I ask you to...
Can you see my screen? Good afternoon to everybody.
Yeah.
So
please.
let's...
up to 5 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. So let me introduce, my name is Zoriana Dvulit. I'm professor from Lviv Polytechnic National University. And I would like to present our article, our research simulation, the attractiveness of transport services as a tool for assessing consumer loyalty in the digital epoch. So the digital initiatives used in the study as a tools for assessing the loyalty of consumers of transport services, which we think that the loyalty of consumer of transport services made it possible to determine the feasibility of introducing additional services. And the driving forces for adoption of the latest information technologies and digital tools, of course, for competitive position of transport companies are identified. A study of consumer preferences based on simulation, the attractiveness of transport services in the field of rail transport. It's a joint stock company, Ukrzaliznytsia, I think you know, all of you know, led the conclusion that the development of the digital technologies will remain a key factor influencing consumer choice. A model of multidimensional analysis of transport services attractiveness based on analysis of structure of consumers and the degree of the satisfaction with the quality of such service by certain consumer groups was developed. So it was proven that development of digital technologies and services for passengers may improve the ability of the railway companies to address new challenges related to the quarantine restrictions. So you can see on the next slide, the volumes of passenger transportation by railways of joint stock company Ukrzaliznytsia. It's the main business entity in the market of passenger rail transportation in Ukraine. And according to the State Statistics Service of Ukraine, the volume of passengers by rail on this period from 2001 up to 2019 was fall down. And this indicates the need to generate new ideas and implement modern practices to improve consumer services, according to this. So our research results of our study are obtained through the use of multidimensional statistical analysis, which determines the quantitative side of mass phenomena and processes at a higher level, comprehensively classifies and groups multifaceted objects, recognize new ones, and allows to identify latent qualities of objects. So According to our research, we applied the solution of the following problems: selection of groups of objects with a similar combination of features, structure of consumers of transport services. Next, selection of groups of features that best reflect the image of the hidden indicators, degree of consumer satisfaction, and compression of an initial space of features without significant loss of information. Next, measuring the closeness of relationship between groups of functional and dysfunctional, of course, the responses of respondents according to the Kano model. Selection and use of the scale for assessing functional and dysfunctional responses. So you can see from the next few slides is our grouping by respondents by age, by main occupation, by internet access, and by place of residence. And the implementation of our task involved conducting the survey of user service of joint stock company Ukrzaliznytsia on the level of satisfaction with the services. Respondents were grouped by following characteristics, which I showed you right a few slides before. And according to Kano model, which was the next steps of our study to the quality of service provided and the degree of consumer satisfaction. And this stage was implemented using by this Kano model, which helps to define the interaction between goods or services and consumer satisfaction and maintaining the quality of product functions. This model or methods was used to study the rail transportation services of Ukrzaliznytsia as their largest provider in Ukraine. So all possible combinations of respondents' answers according to the Kano model are summarized in this tables that you can see on this slide. According to the Kano's methodology, this question describes three functional characteristics of railway services. The first is positive, next negative, and evaluative, reflecting the degree of satisfaction with the respondents according to the different age, according to their access to the internet, and to their social groups. And this is made possible to visualize of consumer choice survey result that you can see on this slide number 11. And last one, this conclusion, our studies showed that for online booking services and the ability to use mobile application to book and to pay for train travel, there is a need for their constant use and improvement as a one-dimensional function to maximize the quality of service. It's development of such function that the company needs to pay attention to within the policy of product improvement and increasing the competitive advantages of passenger transportation by railway. When using multidimensional methods in research, the following methodological issues can be solved. The main are development of conceptual formulation of task and directional research, formulation and substantiation of the system of indicators, which characterize the object of a study, implementation of the algorithm of corresponding multidimensional methods with the use of practical data. Next one, interpretation of the obtained research result. And the first, the development of a set of recommendations for the problem solving. Tastes and preferences of consumers are dynamic characteristics, which requires a constant monitoring. The RABI, the proposed model of attractiveness of transport service, is not universal, but is quite flexible and can be adapted to specific conditions and objectives of study. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Any questions? Do you have any questions?
I was in time, yes.
Yeah, we have a very strict time limitation, and I suggest to follow to the next presentation. Simulation, the impact of eco expenditure on the effectiveness of eco projects, the railways of Ukraine case. Maybe we try to discuss all of these presentations together after them. Unmute, please. Switch on your microphone, please. We don't hear you.
Вам потрібно включити мікрофон, пані Ліана.
Не чує нас? Oh, yeah. Now we can hear you. Welcome, please.
Everything is okay, I guess. Thank you. Thank you. So I want to introduce you our research simulation of the impact of eco expenditure on the effectiveness of eco projects, the railways of Ukraine case. And I work at the University of Food Technologies. I'm associated professor, and this research is the result of cooperation with colleagues from different universities. In our research, we have provided multi-level hierarchical model. In this research model is proposes. This model include different level of estimate the relationship between corporational turnover and the amount of carbon dioxide emissions by the relevant sources of pollution in terms of their volume and structure. The second level of simulation focuses on the structure and closeness of the relationship between environmental expenditure and the amount of carbon dioxide emissions as the most harmful pollutant. At the third level, the share of variation in emissions due to transportation is compared with the share of variation in emissions due to the cost of environmental projects. The hierarchy of the model also provides for the structuring of the object of study. The first level of the hierarchy, 6 railways of joint stock company Ukrzaliznytsia. The second level, joint stock company Ukrzaliznytsia like a whole. The system of selected indicators provided for the inclusion of the relevant statistical reports submitted to state statistics bodies and internal statistical reporting of the railways of Ukraine. The dynamics of the structure of the total operational turnover of the Ukrainian railways in 2007 to 2019 was characterized by significant fluctuations. And the general trend for joint stock company Ukrzaliznytsia is decline of the total operational turnover. Forecasting the dynamics of the studied indicator is recommended using a linear trend. The existing trends for railways are mainly declining by various forms of dependence. And the largest polluter was the Odessa railway in 2017, and the smallest, the Pridniprovska one, in 2014. And the total change in emissions from the railways decreased by almost 42%, which is significantly ahead the reduction of traffic. Which decreased in 2019 compared to 2007 by less than 33%. And the structure of environmental protection expenditure for the railways of Ukraine is characterized by significant changes. The lowest share of total expenditure in 2009 Pivdenna, which however in 2011 became the leader in this indicator. Significant fluctuations of the respective shares are also characterized of the Odessa railway. The dynamics of environmental protection expenditure in absolute terms is also unstable.
I apologize for interrupt you, but we have just a minute.
Okay, the results of correlation regression analysis of the dependence of emissions by characterized of the different railways. And as a result of the study of the dependence of growth rate decrease of emissions of the railways of Ukraine, it was found that it exists for all railways except the Pivdenna railway and Pridniprovska railway. And according to our calculations, in the future, the development model can be applied to identify problematic objects in railway transfer for which the magnitude of share of environmental expenditure in total doesn't affect the reducing carbon dioxide emissions. The proposed model allows to assess the indirect effectiveness of environmental projects on railways with the separation of objects that demonstrate the lack of relationship between the size of environmental expenditure and carbon dioxide emissions. It was found that the Pivdenna and Pridniprovska railways during the study